Thank you, Chepo, for having me and giving me the pleasure to host this panel. As you said, photography, image generation, and AI. It always strikes me that when we talk a lot about AI, that very often it seems that we forget about photography. And I'm a photo enthusiast, and I believe in visual journalism to play a big role. So that's I think it's important to talk about it. We have a great panel. We have Dr. David Campbell, Education Director at the Seven Foundation, Zlata Pnirovskaya, Free Press Unlimited for Eastern Europe and head of the Prague School, and Alessia Glaviano, head of PhotoVogue. My name is Lars Boering. I'm the director of the European Journalism Center, where we support, strengthen, and develop journalism, and in combination with many things where AI also plays a role. I'm just going to ask some questions, but I'm also asking you to do a short introduction. I'm going to start with you, Alessia Glaviano. You are the head of PhotoVogue. Can you tell us a little bit about...
Thank you, Lars, and thanks for having me. It's so great to be here among new friends and old friends. It's good to see you, David. So I've been at Vogue Italia for 23 years, and when Vogue Italia decided to go online in 2010, I decided to do something specifically on photography, and I created PhotoVogue, which is today a huge platform. We have 350,000 photographers from every part of the world, and it's also a festival starting in 2016. Every year we dedicate the festival to a theme that we deem important and for the contemporary discourse around photography. And this year it was AI, in fact, you know, and we also did a symposium that it's online. Later I can maybe give the link or tell everyone. We had a symposium of 3 days, and we tried to talk about everything related to AI, the ethical point of view, copyrights, photojournalism, all of that. So yeah. I will tell
Alessia, in the editorial world, I mean, we talk about journalism, of course, but magazines, online, all of it is part of this media ecosystem. Can you say that AI in magazines like Vogue or any other magazine already play a big role at this moment?
No, because absolutely not. We have very strict rules in Vogue. I'm part of a global team, so I know what's happening all around the company. We have a very strict code of ethics and conduct, and at the moment, we do not allow AI unless there is a particular reason. Like, for instance, I did a festival about AI, so of course I did exhibitions with AI-generated images, you know, because we wanted to talk about that. Or there's been some covers of Vogue and stories done with AI, but exactly, it was absolutely stated. It was more, they weren't completely generated with AI. It was more like, maybe, you know, like we did a cover with Bella did for Vogue Italia. The pictures of Bella were real. And then, you know, it was a back and forth with AI for the backdrop. So we are experimenting, but in a very transparent and ethical way.
Yeah. Do you see it as a big threat for visuals to be fake? I mean, we're going to talk a bit about deepfake later, but do you worry about it?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think, and I always make this big distinction between fashion and art, where there shouldn't be limits. You know, I mean, the limit is the creativity, is the good taste of people. But then it's a completely different thing when we're talking about photography as a document. And my dear friend, I know you know him too, Fred Ricin, is a big advocate of this, and he's doing a lot. He was also among the guests of the symposium at the festival. There is a very big challenge for all of us, and it is quite scary what could be. You can just look at the phones now, you know, what the phones now can do. They all have AI integrated, especially the newest one, and all kind of things that before you needed to be like professional using Photoshop. Now you do it just like that,
Yeah.
with the phone. So
Fred Ritchen is the dean of ICP, the International Center of Photography in New York. He's an important writer about photography, journalism as well, visual journalism. So let's keep that name up there, because I think there is the question about who stands up for photography. David, you've been a researcher. You have written reports about the state of the news. You're also at this moment looking more in depth into AI. Seven Foundation that you represent. Can you give a little bit of a background there?
Yeah, sure. It's great to be here with everyone. Actually, I'm in San Francisco today which is the home of AI, I guess, which is kind of ironic. This week, there's a symposium at Stanford, the Adobe Content Authenticity Initiative. We'll probably talk a little bit about some of those things when we come to the technological issues for having authenticity and authenticating and verifying images or whatever. But the Seven Foundation, who I work for, was set up in 2001 alongside the Seven Photo Agency. So it's the Roman numerals 7, named originally for the 7 photographers who set it up, became one of the most important and major agencies in photojournalism. But the foundation was set up both to provide new ways of funding editorial work, because everything was changing. But now it has education as its mission. And in the last few years, we have programs 7 Academy, 7 Insider, 7 Community. And that trains visual journalists from the majority world, about 120 people a year, free of charge to those individuals, to increase the capacity for credible and trustworthy visual journalism in places that don't have the resources to do the training. So obviously we try and stay on top of all these developments. We're trying to elevate the role and status of photojournalism and visual journalism, and these ethical debates are really important for that. So
yeah. Trustworthy photography. I mean, trust is a word that used a lot. Seven Foundation still has the lots of the founding journalists there. They are still photojournalists. Is it a topic that is heavily debated within that group? What AI is, what it does? Do they see it as a threat for photojournalism?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation about it. There's a lot of concern about it. I think generally in the photojournalism, visual journalism space, which as we know is a subset of this bigger thing called photography, and which is a subset of this bigger thing called journalism, there is a lot of concern and anxiety about that. And I think we're all right to be concerned and anxious about that. But I do think that we kind of need to have an historical understanding and understanding the context a little bit, because some of the things that are happening now have been going on for a long period of time. So if we talk about trust, for example, journalism is under attack everywhere all the time. You know, it's become a partisan object, a partisan target. So it's not AI that's causing journalism to lose credibility or lose trust. It's an environment in which it's being attacked. And now AI is coming in as another technology, or different particular workings of AI are coming in as another technology that are creating some issues. But, you know, as we all know, I mean, photography has been computational since the emergence of the digital age. You know, we've been dealing with cameras collecting data, and then images have been processed since cameras have been digital. You know, sensors do not record images, they record data. And from that moment on, it has to be processed. Now we're talking about a form of processing in an AI, which is taking it to a whole new scale, a whole new different level, a different form of processing. So it's not the same. We're dealing with something completely new and a series of new challenges, but it's not like we've had an analog age where everyone trusted everyone and the image was, you know, not a target. And now we're going into a problem era. We're just having a new set of problems in a context of challenges for media and journalism generally.
Before I go to Zlata, you are there in San Francisco, the Content Authenticity Initiative, a way to make sure that the photo or the image that is made immediately in camera is being sort of marked, and that you can track it all the way through. What can you tell me from the latest information now that you are there? Where do we stand? Well,
so what Adobe is doing, so Adobe makes the tools that allow a lot of creativity. I don't work for Adobe, obviously, but it's a coalition of people and partners and individuals. So Adobe makes those tools, which are now using AI and Photoshop that allow you to do absolutely extraordinary things, but which, as Alessia said, would be hugely problematic in a news image or a documentary image or image that you want as evidence. So alongside that, they have this initiative where they are creating technological protocols and industry standards that even camera manufacturers are now coming on board with, big agencies like Reuters are coming on board with, so that you can establish the provenance of the image. So it's not going to prevent images being questioned. It shouldn't prevent images being questioned. It's not going to prevent them being attacked. But if they are, you will have the data that shows where it was made, when it was made, how it was made. A lot of that's in EXIF data and in images anyway. But now it's going to be much more substantial, and maybe with some industry protocols on that. And then there are various ways that you can build that into media platforms so that viewers and readers can see how those things have been produced. And that having that sort of digital trail and making that transparent is, I think, going to be one of the key things that will allow people to hopefully increase trust. Well, I don't think we're going to solve that problem, but at least when things are questioned, we're going to have the evidence and the verifiable data to respond to those things.
Technology is causing a lot of disruption, but in this sense, it's also, again, a way to get back on track and see how we can restore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zlata, Prague School of Media and also Free Press Unlimited. Free Press Unlimited is one of the fine organizations, our colleagues that are putting up a fight for free press, free media. What does the Prague School do, and what do you do for Free Press Unlimited?
We educate, we started as a media school for journalists, providing, so basically all our courses based on some tool or technology we explore together in groups. It's always synchronous, nothing pre-recorded. And a year and a half ago, I realized that we need to look at AI because the diffusion, because of the rise of diffusion models, which we have in Adobe now, and you're probably also familiar with Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, DALL-E, and but it was too early to offer these instruments to journalists because of the nature of the work. You have to record real things, not generate some fake.
Yeah.
And so we invited media artists and wider public to explore together. And it results in, we probably conducted like 14 courses already, where we explore all the models, where we generate images and videos. Because I deeply believe if I understand how to make it, I probably will be able to spot it as well, like to understand what's wrong with this. Thanks to many Bellingcat's trainings, of course. But what I wanted to address to the previous conversation. So somehow, like how 6 months ago, we started to see that our students who, for example, our students from Ukraine, they started to generate their diaries where they were in these pictures, and this is how they actually told their stories, the human stories, which we all keen to publish, and a lot of journalists trying to help people to talk about these stories, right? So now we see it as one of the instruments to record your experience, to talk about it in some way. And we have all these exhibitions where everybody can see it and read about these stories.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to acknowledge that photography to my opinion, still enjoys unjustifiably high level of trust in our culture. Frankly, to manipulate with analog photographs were manipulated massively.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that but also in the digital era, I don't need to use Photoshop. I just can change the title, and it changes everything.
Right.
So I agree that this addressing to fakes, like that now we will have fakes like real. Maybe actually the previous 10 years with all this fake news and maybe it was like a vaccine to the independent media. And now the audience see why we actually trust, I don't know, Guardian or, sorry, Guardian. Yeah. And so why I need this media to fact check for me, to tell me the truth, or to find the format to represent AI generated images, but to just to engage me.
Yeah. Is it do you talk with your students? I mean, we talk a lot about also deep fakes, and this is where you see let's say Zelensky doing a speech he has never done and it looks so real, or Joe Biden, or it can be anybody. Do you think that your students understand quickly whether something is real or not?
For now, yes.
For now.
For now, I do. But also, I was getting myself ready for this session, and there are clever ways to spot video fakes. And one, I heard about it before, but now it's it's all working thing. The very clever way to analyze video: when our heart pumps, our veins they change the color. So with computer vision, they analyze these data, and then we can tell whether whether it's been generated or not. Yeah. But also, well, for real-time generations, you need a lot of power.
Yeah. Alessia, do you sometimes encounter work that is that you doubt? Do you? I mean, you've been in the photo world for a long time.
I think I think that first of all, things are changing so fast, exponentially. Like, these systems are getting better and better, like every day. If you think like the hands that before, when they started, you would see immediately. Also, it's interesting how now there is already an aesthetic that it's the AI aesthetic, that you somehow spot the colors, the thing, because it's been there now for over a year. So we kind of see it. But if you want to do something that it looks real, you can. I mean, there is an aesthetic of AI, which let's see how that is going to develop. But sometimes they can fool me too if they want to, unless, although I am very, like, we were talking about the Adobe thing. Santiago was part of it. He came and he explained about that. I also had this professor here at the university, and they're working on possible watermarks, or anyway, possible technologies to detect. Because the idea, what you were saying, David, it's very interesting. And of course, we need that, which is in case someone comes to you, you're a photojournalist, and they say this is not real, you have a proof that it is. But I think the best solution would be that each of us has something that is like you pointed at a picture and it tells you if it's been generated or not. And this is not possible at the moment who knows if it's ever going to be possible, because, you know, these technologies advance so fast that this professor was telling us it's very difficult to keep up, you know, and to, so it's very complicated at a certain point though, because we did also try to explore projects that have been done with the scope of photojournalism, which is the one to inform, which is the one to give a voice to people who have been tortured, who have, and maybe they couldn't speak up. And for instance, I don't know if you are all familiar with this project, which is Exhibit AI. And I can now leave it on the screen, and it's very, maybe can I share the screen?
No, we don't. We cannot. We don't. We were not allowed to share the screen.
Okay, so
But if you can put it in the chat, and people can.
I recommend to look at it, because it's a very incredible project done in Australia for the refugees. And all these images that were generated with the collaboration of the refugees. So the refugees was sitting next to a technician, and he was telling a story, what happened to her, whatever. And then the picture was made. So again, here, you know, maybe we do need also this kind of works, you know.
Yeah. As long as it's clear, this is a good way of storytelling and getting across their experience.
There are some things that cannot be photographed, but at least like this, there is a document. I don't want to call it a document, but it is also, because, you know, in this case, it is true to what the refugee is recounting of what was their experience. So I wouldn't throw everything away. Like, again, like I would like to stress, I know you already said this word many times, David and Lars and Zlata, is trust. So I think trust is the new currency. And this is in relation to organization, to individuals, all of it. And as David was saying, it's not a new thing, you know. It's unfortunately there are a lot of bad people out there, so, you know.
David, you wanted to reflect on that, and after that I'm going to ask Ceppo to open up some questions that are posed in the chat. David?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alessia is absolutely right. There will be situations. I mean, first of all, AI is here now. Disinformation is here now. I mean, if you look at the information pollution around the Hamas-Israel war, for example, the people at BBC Verify do fantastic work checking on what's on social media feeds, rather. And it's extraordinary, the misuse of images. But the misuse that they're seeing are not deepfakes. We have to be concerned about deepfakes for sure. But at the moment, amazingly, that's kind of a minority issue in the disinformation that's coming out every day now. What's happening is people are reappropriating images, screenshotting them, taking them off feeds from other conflicts, claiming they're Hamas, Israel, taking things from video games, taking completely different things from Algerian football crowds, claiming they're explosions in Gaza or whatever. These are just individuals, as well as, you know, malevolent individuals just wanting to pollute the information space for that. You know, people talk about actually cheap fakes rather than deep fakes. So that problem is there now. AI is going to make that worse. We're seeing some AI generated images in that. So there's going to, you know, the technology can be used for things that we cannot imagine and cannot photograph. Alessia gave a great example. I think there are projects around Holocaust survivors also thinking about their memories and how to visualize those. The risk, of course, is that someone will screenshot those and then send them out. But that's what's happening now with you know, contemporary images and so on. So there are small spaces, I think, for visualizing things that we cannot photograph where it's going to have a role. I think all of us probably just feel that in the space of visual journalism and documentary and so on, it's highly problematic. But while there'll be a technological contribution to the solution, in the end, the main solution is going to be, can you trust your source? That is the media organization, the platform, the photographer, the journalist. And the only way that those organizations and individuals are going to be trusted is if their process is transparent.
Yeah, trust.
And yeah, transparency is going to be, you know, that currency of trust, I think.
Yeah. Ceppo, can I ask you to post some questions that are shared on the chat?
So I've got one from Aisha, and she says, is there any specific elements to look out for in video and photos? In India, we are seeing AI videos and pictures on social media platforms on politics and elections. So far, it is evident, but I am afraid that during elections, they might put out more authentic looking content, and it will be hard to tell as a journalist if it would be helpful if you could share any tips. Elements to look out for in videos and photos?
Yeah. It's always the question, who's best to answer.
Yeah, I mean, Alessia said in the past.
Zlata first. Let's go for Zlata, please.
Sorry, Alessia, if you want.
No, Zlata, please.
So for videos, look into the eyes and around this area. Generally, there is a term in Stable Diffusion, no blurry eye. So we in our prompts we ask to do this and that, and it's like really bad in making. So if you look at like a very brilliant deepfake of Zelensky or Biden, you will see that the eyes are very like black, dark dots.
So it's a matter of taking a very close look at the video. If you don't feel that, you have to search into it, and you say that at this moment we can still spot it. Yeah. Okay. David.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, but the number one thing is probably less particular aesthetic details or image details. The question is, who's posting it? Who's sharing it?
Yeah.
Are they a credible source? Are they a reliable person? And then cross-check. You know, individuals can cross-check, organizations can cross-check by a reverse image search. Just do a search and see if there are other things. You know, that will, you know, watching the BBC verify people do this in real time with stuff coming out of Gaza in Israel is extraordinary, because they can very quickly and instantly see that that image is not what it claims to be. So who's posting, why are they posting, and cross-check.
Yeah.
Those are not technical solutions, but they're important solutions.
Yeah. Alessia, did you also want to reflect on this?
Well, again, you know, I mean, I was fascinated by what Zlata was saying. I do believe that videos is still a bit easier than images, because with images now, if they want to fool you, you know, it's really difficult now with images.
Yeah, I think so too. I did a lecture about AI, and I said to the crowd, I regret it, because even in the train towards it, I had to find new examples. It's going at an enormous speed. Yeah. Ceppo, do you have more questions coming from the chat?
So this one is directed to Alessia. Can you tell us more about the Australia case and where you took these facts?
Okay, so Victoria, I would suggest to you, because it's a very well done website. I did post, as you can see in the chat, I did post Exhibit AI, and it has all the informations, all the statement. It's very well done. It's been very well executed. So I would suggest for you, everything is there. So, I mean, me repeating that would be, we would lose time for something we don't need to lose time on.
David, the question that we wanted to pose, what is the role? I mean, we talk about media, and we talk about where does it come from. The Guardian was mentioned, but of course there are many, let's say, traditional media companies, but also new ones that come on. Do you see, is it difficult for an individual visual journalists to play a role here, or is this where it actually starts? Are they the one that, yeah, that's where the whole track starts with the image that is being made? Is that something we can ask from them?
Well, I think we have to. I think that this is where it fits into, you know, education programs and curricula. You have to be having these debates covering these issues. You know, that's very important for us at the Seven Foundation to make sure those discussions are there right from the beginning with all the people who are in the program. And, you know, as we all know, most images are produced by freelancers who are contracted to media organizations. Fewer and fewer organizations have staff photographers or staff videographers or staff photojournalists. So they're working for multiple clients, different things. They'll be doing commercial shoots. They'll be working for NGOs as well as media organizations. So it has to start with those individuals because they're the ones who are going to be producing those visual stories and that visual content. But that does raise the point that there are different levels in the process, in the visual economy, if you like, from someone assigning something to making an image to putting it into a story to putting it on a platform to circulating it. There are editors, art directors, agents, etc., etc. Many levels of decision making go between the moment something is captured on someone's sensor on a camera to when someone actually sees it in a story. And I think everyone has to be aware of these issues because some people can slip up, something can happen, something can be questioned, and so on. So it doesn't fall just on photographers and videographers, which I think is a very important thing to say, because I think a lot of these debates in the end unfairly fall on the shoulders of photographers and videographers. The finger gets pointed at them, but there are lots of steps before those images get circulated in the world.
Yeah. Zlata, from your work in Prague, I posed the question in the beginning that sometimes I feel, but I'm a photo enthusiast and I believe in visual journalism. Do you feel that is there more emphasis on text or is there more emphasis on visuals? What do you think prevails in the media landscape these days?
Thank you for the question. Obviously, every newsroom was trying to get as much multimedia content as they could to stay connected with the audiences on social media. And the social media algorithms, as everybody I believe know as well, they just push your videos and sometimes photos, but never a comprehensive article which you spent 3 years of producing. Never happened. Well, it will never happen. They will never without multimedia content. So I perceive multimedia, these videos, photographs, or AI generated stuff as a lift or as something which will engage our audience before they will be ready to spare some time to read our brilliant piece 3 years in production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a good combination to have. It should come from different angles that you will get in touch with the story that matters.
Also, I remember how much it costs to hire an illustrator or designer to produce some graphics for and to animate it after to animate after for explainers, some very simple infotainment formats, but it costs a lot and it's very time consuming. And now we actually can, my students, myself, I can produce this footage in a few hours, and also I can produce video in a few hours. This is an amazing opportunity for us to improve, to be more visible, basically.
That's a good optimistic way of looking at it. I like it. Alessia, we are a little bit biased because we are in the world of vision, but is this the the best day for visuals ever? I mean, or is it? What do you think? Is it coming that space bigger? Is it more important? I see you smile, so it must be somewhere going towards yes.
No, it's because I always think that there's always, you know, we're always discussing it's photography dead, this, that. I mean, no, or is it a great day if you think about it? I think visuals are always going to be incredibly important. And I think it's a bit too soon to see what really AI is going to mean, because a part of me thinks that we're always going to be drawn to things that we can relate to and fascinated by people, by real people, no? So I want to know a real person. I want to know, and you know, then there is also the idea that some say, I think I heard the CNN or they did some studies and they say that in 10 years from now, 95% of what's going to be online, it's going to be AI generated images with, so it's a bit, I think it's a great opportunity for the arts and artists, and for I think it's as big as the invention of the wheel, when, you know, because this is gonna touch so many areas of, so I mean, I'm just very careful because I understand also the risks, the biases in it, the dangers of misinformation that are growing, the possibility of erasing memory and archives, and how the past was, you know, because like David was saying, now the misinformation with the cheap fake instead of deep fake, but imagine how you can somehow rewrite history, you know, by putting things out there. At the same time, for the artist, I feel it's just another tool in their hands. But again, it's different. You know, here we're talking about photojournalism, which it shouldn't be treated like you would treat fine art or fashion photography, you know? So it's very, very complicated.
Yeah. Do you believe, David, that this trust level in journalism can be kept up? Are you optimistic about the landscape of journalism?
Well, I'm optimistic that particular individuals and particular platforms can establish credibility and trust through verification procedures, transparency, and so on. I'm not optimistic about the wider landscape, you know, what Claire Wardle and others call the global information disorder that we're all deeply in. I think that's bad, and that's probably going to get worse. But then it's a bit like in these times when it's bad and getting worse, a large number of people are still going to look for credible and trustworthy sources. And so it's up to individuals, freelancers, organizations, you know, to provide the things that can allow that trust to grow. But it's not going to change. We're not going to suddenly emerge into an era where suddenly media is trusted again. I don't think that's the case at all. It's too deeply embedded in partisanship and politics for that. But people can do things that provide good content, good material, good reporting, good investigations, verifiable images, that those who want those things, which I think is a substantial number of people, can find them. So, you know, again, to kind of support what Alessia is saying, it's a time of great potential and a time of great risk, but it's also a time where I think that the visual needs more space in the conversation about the current state of journalism and the future state of journalism. I think it's been relegated to the space of illustration in the past, and now it needs to be an active participant in these debates. And I think the question about deepfakes and AI is probably providing us a way into that. So I hope this is a start of a more engaged conversation about those things, and then what we can do to provide those verifiable and trustworthy sources.
Yeah. Chepo, I'm looking at the time. We have 5 minutes left. Do we have anything from the participants online?
We have one long question. I'll try and read it out as fast as I can.
We don't mind you being the journalist and shorten it. Yeah.
Let's see how we can shorten this. David, you mentioned Hamas fake media. Even before the AI, there has been a huge industry of fake media of Hamas. The question is how do the reporters on networks, organizations, etc., how could they keep being politically objective, unbiased, and really check the material before publishing the fake media with flashing headlines?
Well, what I was talking about was the way in which there's a huge amount of misleading and fake material around the Hamas-Israel war. And it comes from citizens, it comes from participants, so it's not just one group, one side doing that. And if you watch the BBC Verify team work with those images, there are procedures like reverse image searches, checking context. They've established some very simple guides and processes that can both organizations can follow, but also individuals who are looking at their social media feeds can follow on that. There's no, we've got 30 seconds and no one's going to debate this in 30 years either. There's no such thing as a pure single position of objectivity. There's no such thing as, what Jay Rosen calls the view from nowhere. You have to have there are multiple perspectives that are objective from the perspective that they have. What you need to do is multiply those perspectives, cross-check them, and then see which ones are verifiable, which ones you get kind of a concordance of evidence on. And that's best that you can do, and that's what journalism has done historically, and we need to keep doing that.
Yeah, thank you, David. That answers the question. Zlata, is it becoming more difficult to teach journalists, or is it how do you see it? I mean, if we listen to David, there's lots of things in journalism that remain the same, fact checking, good looking at it. How do you see that with your students? Is that becoming more important, and is it difficult?
No, it's fun, and sorry. There are some challenges. For example, I never start the course with explanation what model is and how, because it all be metaphors, and maybe we don't need to spend time on it. So, but for the last 3 courses, we get this complaints like, you never told us what it actually is, and this is not fair. All right, we're starting this conversation with model explanation. Everybody that this is so unuseful for our everyday practice. How do of course this area we do, like right now we're doing this course AI Newsroom, where we actually have about 15 journalists, but 15 artists, because they form the community and they want to know how journalists are doing their jobs with AI. And it's the area is such big. You have to run so many tests. It's actually easier to learn it together, because if it's so we have a prompt, we have different services. Everybody, every website online says we doing fact checking, and we can tell you what's it was AI generated or not. And this is in every case, this is not true. But there are like 40 of them, and I have to either test it. We all either will be testing them by ourselves or together. So we're doing it together, and of course it's easier this way. Like it is only possible this way, I think.
Yeah. So we are at the end of our time for this panel. Technology is of help. Trust is important. Teaching is there as well. It was great to be hosting this panel. Dr. David Campbell, Zlata Pnirovskaya, and Alessia Glaviano. Yeah, thank you so much for helping me out. Thank you so much for talking, and it feels like we can keep talking for another 45 minutes. We should maybe somewhere else, but thank you so much for joining us today.